And welcome back. I wasn't sure I was going to do this video, but here it goes. This is another video on the 1070 Ti or 1070 Ti, however you want to say it. I said before, I think that this is a bad business move, and I think consumers are going to start to realize that after it comes out. I'm not saying it's a bad business move for Nvidia. I'm saying it's a bad business move for the industry altogether. Because what is going to happen here can be broken down into a couple of things, and a couple of these things people aren't so much thinking about, and most of them have to deal with the future. The future is looking pretty bleak for consumers in the video card area of the tech industry because of moves like this. Now, slowly over the last few years, if you've noticed, if you've been around in the industry to notice, the average price or general price of release for all mid-range GPUs has slowly crept higher and higher and higher. And the amount of performance that we get from generation to generation has slowly went down. And do not expect this to change in the future. There is no reason why this is going to change because, let's face it, it's getting more expensive to create. The scalability and everything changes. I mean, you've heard Nvidia and AMD both come out and say that, they're changing up the complete architectures of how they make video cards in the future and putting them into a scalable architecture because the costs are ridiculous to make these things. The 1070 Ti, what is it actually going to do to the market? We already have a cut down version of the 1080. It's the 1070. Do we really need another one? No. Do we need another one to go up against Vega 56? No. Vega 56 costs as much as the 1080. So obviously there's not really a price competitor that they're going after here. So that completely shoots that whole idea in the foot. Going back to the business ideas and the reasons for launching something like this, what makes sense? Well, there's only a couple of things left that kind of make sense. Nvidia is looking to stagger even farther the next release of cards, which are the Volta cards, supposedly next year. So what does that kind of mean? Well, that means that maybe they're looking to be able to push the difference between the 1070 and the 1080 further apart because people will all of a sudden go, wait, there's going to be a 1070 Ti again. So instead of there being a 20% or 25% difference between the two, maybe next time around you're going to see between the 70 and the 80 series, you're going to see a 45% difference between the two. But guess what? You're not going to see a price drop for that difference. What you're going to see is whatever they label as the next 70 series is just going to be 45% slower than whatever the 80 is for the same price as you're paying right now, or a few dollars higher. Remember when the 1070 launched, it was $399. That's $400. The 1080 launched, it was basically $550. Who in their right mind pays $550 for a mid-tier GPU? Well, everybody now. It never used to be that way. And that's where people don't understand. The reason this is such a bad business move, and sooner or later this is going to catch up because this has been happening for years. People need to start realizing this is what is going on. And this is why it's horrible. Because when people start understanding how this really works, they're going to get pissed off. Now, the idea in business, yes, is kind of to make a profit. But it's also sustainability. How long can you sustain making a profit? That is one of the most important things of business. In fact, that is the most important to a successful business, is the sustainability of the market in which they're in and the product that they make. How sustainable is it when everybody hates you for doing cash grabs like this? When it finally comes out and they lose that mind share because instead of being known as the people putting out the fastest cards out there, which they are right now, 100%. The last couple of years, Nvidia has been rocking it in the graphics card industry. They've been doing very well. But does that really matter when you start pissing off all the customers that you have that are willing to pay these prices? Because you also have to stop and think that The $300 and up price market in the graphics industry. Now, granted, you're talking mid-range up to high end graphics cards. The 300 and up is not the big section of graphics cards. Most of the graphics cards sold are less than $300. And that's where AMD has been killing it the last couple of years with the Polaris architecture, is because the sub $300 range are the most sold. So there are fewer people in the $300+ range. The reason why I consider the 1070 Ti to be nothing but a cash grab and a bad business move is it's going to further implement in the eyes of the people who purchase these things. Not the people who want to purchase them, but the people who actually put the money down on the table. People who have the money for it. Well, they're going to start to stop and go, hey, wait a minute. Why in the hell am I paying so much? Because in all honesty, over the last few years, the only thing that NVIDIA has really been doing is slowly creeping up the price of all the mid-range graphics cards. Look back a couple of generations, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Every one of the series have been a little bit higher than the last, a little bit more than the last, a little bit more than the last. And it's happening slow enough that people are just going, hey, no, that's the average price range for something like that. Who in their right mind thinks the average price range for a mid-tier GPU is $550 or $500? I remember a few years back when the 290X came out, which when it came out was the fastest GPU there was for at least a little while. It was $550. That wasn't a mid-tier graphics card. That was a high-end graphics card. Stop and think about that for a minute. High-end graphics cards used to cost between $550 and $650. Now you can't touch them in that price range, and you're now paying that for a high-end mid-tier graphics card. I will 100% say that a 1080, 1070, they're both mid-range. Why are they mid-range? They're not full GPUs. They're, GPU 104s. That's not the big GPU. It's not the big GPU at all. The big GPU, what's this time around, is GPU 102. That's only seen in the original Titan X Pascal, the Titan X little p, and the 1080 Ti. Only 3 cards that have it. That's a high-end GPU. But back to the 1070 Ti. The 1070 Ti is rumored to come in right about $429, and that's a price you'll never see on it. It's not going to happen. Even if they were released at that price, by the time that someone got a hold of it to sell it to you, that card's going to be about $500. Why? The same reason why the $349 MSRP on the 1070, you can't touch one for less than $400. And I don't know who out there is doing the kindergarten math stating that 1070 Ti is coming in $100 less than the 1080, but $70 is not $100. In any form or fashion, $70 does not equal $100. It just don't. The 1080 also is supposed to be coming in at right about $500, which is the same price that you're actually seeing some of those sold at, but most of them come in about $550 or somewhere about there. And as I said, the Vega 56, which is what the 1070 Ti would be designed to go against, it sells for $500, not its MSRP of $400. So realistically, where do you see the 1070 Ti being sold at? I say $479 to $489 for the cheaper variants. Maybe $440 to $450 for a cheaper variant. But it's not going to be any cheaper than that. And heaven help you, it turns out to be a good card. And they don't screw it over with these locks that we're seeing about there might be frequency locks. They're overclocking locks that you can't get around because they don't want to tank their sales of their 1080s. Which is what they're going to do with this card anyway. If it performs good enough, this card is going to tank the 1080. Wow, there's a surprise. I mean, who wouldn't pay $50 to $70 less for 2% less performance. I mean, that's on paper, that's what it looks like. You're going to get about 2% less performance frame rate. Wow. You know, that's nothing. To me, that's worth a $50 price cut. I'll buy the cheaper one. I'm not going to spend the extra money on the 1080. But as I said, getting back into this, what would be the point in bringing out a card like this? Because obviously we know that the card itself is kind of a cash grab. It's so that they can say that they have something in the market that costs less than Vega 60 or Vega 56 that performs better, or at least on par in the areas where the Vega 56 performs really well. Like I said, it's to segment the market even further. What you're going to see next time around on the next launch, I have a good feeling, is you're going to see the 70 series right back at $400. But all of a sudden, you know that there's going to be a 70 Ti. Why? Because they introduced one with this series. They've never made a Ti and then stopped making it. Once they start making a Ti for a specific, they just keep on with it. So they're going to have to make sure that next go around that there's definitely a gap for it to fill in there. So the 70 series is going to get slower. Its price is going to stay the same, or even still go up. The 80 series, it's still going to be, a much better card than the 70 series. But now you're going to be looking at probably like a 45% difference overall between the two. And the price on that one is going to continue to go up. So next release, instead of coming out at $550, maybe looking a little closer to $600. Why? So they can widen that gap in costs. They can widen the gap that they have to release a product into. Because you're going to be used to seeing $399 or $400, maybe even $429 for that 70 series. And then you'll be used to seeing, by now, $550, maybe $600 for that 80 series. So, wow, that means that they can release this next time around. They can release the next 70 Ti right at the $500 price mark, and people are going to go, "Oh, look, it's a good card. It fits right in there, and it solves, we get more performance for less." No, you don't. You really don't. What you end up with is a cheaper card that's going to slowly go up to the price point where the 80 series is now, and push that 80 series price point up so that Nvidia can do what it really wants to do and start pushing up that 80 Ti series in price. Why? Because that's the one they lose money on, comparatively speaking. You got to figure 1080 Ti is the exact same card as the Titan X, little p. It's the exact same chip, exact same RAM. They just cut off part of the die. Why, how on earth could it make sense to anybody that a $1,200 card can be sold at $750 and still come out with a good profit? It sure ain't making the profit the Titan X series is making. It's not going to be able to make that profit, so they need to be able to push that card up a little higher in price next time around. Now that new 80 Ti series is going to be somewhere around $800, maybe $850, getting it closer to that $1,200 that Nvidia charges for that X, for that Titan X. Businesses make these decisions for a reason, and they make these moves for a reason. And I am so tired of people thinking that they understand how this works when they really don't. And it's not that there aren't people out there smart enough to understand this, and I've had good talks with a lot of people, but the trolls, and really anybody who's a fanboy, you don't understand what you're talking about when it comes to business. You really don't. Business is a lot more complicated than you realize. And no one makes a decision or a move like this without having a longer end game. So yes, Nvidia's going to make a killing on the 1070 Ti when they release it. But understand what it's really about, and understand why it's a bad business move in the long run. Because all Nvidia is doing is causing another reason to empty a little bit more money out of your pocket than you would have before. That is the whole reason behind this. It is a cash grab for now, because realistically, it has nothing to go up against, not at the price point, and it never did, and it's a cash grab for the future. There's no reason for this card at all. Alright, well, if you like what I do here and you understand what I'm talking about and you understand, that I am here to talk about the business aspects, why something's a good decision or a bad decision from a company, well, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'll try to get out a couple more reviews of some products that I have waiting right now, and hopefully those will be out soon. But I did feel that I needed to make one more attempt to get people to understand why the 1070 Ti is a horrible business decision, especially if you're a consumer. All right, till the next one.